Hey guys, John here with 18 inches down. I just wanted to jump on Father's Day specifically, and this could really apply to any other day of the week of the year as it relates to being a father or a dad or just a man in general, in light of your family situation, in light of any children that may not be talking to you, or just feeling really disqualified or hurt when it comes to fatherhood, when it comes to being a dad. I know for myself this has been a real, let's just say it's been a challenge, uh, in many different ways. It's been a joy being a father and a dad, although I haven't been able to be that to my son for much of his life just because of situations and circumstances that I don't really have time to get into all of right now. Let me just say that, I've made mistakes in my life. I've really tried to own them and then want to make them better as it pertains to being a dad or a father. I have a son that is in his late 30s. And, when my girlfriend at the time had him, she was 16 and I was 17 turning 18. And at that moment in life, you're just trying to figure life out. You really don't know what being a dad or a father means. I had a good dad. He had his own challenges and difficulties, but as far as, loving us, myself and my sisters, he did that in so many ways and providing, and he never left home. He was there, although he worked a lot. So, I mean, there's some really good qualities in my dad. He's still living today as the date of this video. But, so I saw some really good things, but also just knowing inside of yourself, like, hey, I'm 17 years old and not knowing even how to do life yet. And then I was partying at the time. I didn't know anything else. I wasn't awake. I wasn't conscious like I am now and still waking up. Uh, and so, when I had my son, then moving through life, I went into the military directly while he was still a baby. And then through that time, I just wasn't included in the family structure. Although there was an invitation, it very much to me didn't feel um, like I was a part of that family. And for whatever reason, I have several reasons, but I don't really want to spill that on the video right now as to why that was. He had a grandfather that was very close to him that always wanted a son. And so it kind of got a little, a little sticky. Let's just put it that way. And so my son really looked up to his grandfather as basically his dad because, according to my son's words, is that he showed up and loved him and, was a good example in many ways and was there for him. And so, I'm not gonna sit here and look at that and feel sorry for myself, or look at that and say, well, that's not true, or whatever, because it was true to him. So, I've really, over the years, I've asked and I've asked and I've asked to really find out, hey, let's get to the bottom of what really happened, what really went on, and not to make any excuses for it, but just to take ownership as I have, but really find out what's going on in his mind and his side. So it's pretty vague. Um, there's been some words back and forth between him and I. Um, and just misunderstandings and miscommunication in a lot of ways until you get to the nitty gritty of it face to face and start hammering these things out. But the bottom line is that throughout time, I've had to really battle disqualification in just life in general. I've had to battle with, um, real frustration. I've had to battle with just hurt and pain and wounding, and on my side of it. but also on his side of it, just hurting for him as a son, not knowing what he's thinking, what he's feeling because he's not fully communicating that just out of frustration and anger, which is totally okay. Um, it's okay for him to feel that way because he's experienced hurt and pain and woundedness. So this message is for any dad that's ever felt even remotely like this, like feeling almost like you don't have a voice anymore because after all, if somebody has a certain viewpoint of you, especially one of your children, then who are you to even breathe in life? Who are you to even function in life, right? Um, and so you sometimes you really grapple with those things. I know I have. Like, okay, until this is quote taken care of on this side, then I have no right to even live and move and have my being, especially if you want to stand for anything that's good, or if you're trying to just be a better person, then in their mind, until this thing is resolved, but yet not reaching out to resolve it, you're always the loser. You're always the failing parent, like I was coined, which is just again, it's in in his mind, he thinks I was a failure as a parent. So, but let's get to the bottom of that. Why? Let's talk about it. But if the person's not, if your child is not, your son or your daughter is not willing to go there yet, you just have to wait and just continue to love them from a distance, or continue to try to reach out, but not being so pushy that you push them away completely. And for any of you fathers that are feeling like this, your dads are feeling like this, man, I can't even talk to my kids. Maybe you can't even talk to your kids at all. Maybe you blew it yourself and you knew that you blew it. And you're just like, man, I just want to change things. I want to be a better person. How can I do this? They're not allowing me. The mom's not allowing me. The children are not allowing me, or they just don't want anything to do with me. And oftentimes I felt that way about my own son, and I know that he's got a great heart. He's got a real loving side to him, and he's very forgiving. But also, that the pain speaks, and then it starts conditioning the mind, and then the mind says, "This is the truth. This is what I believe about this person, and nothing's going to change it, no matter how much good they do." And it's always on their terms, and those kind of things are. And again, that's one of those areas where that's what they feel they need to do, and again, it's okay. If you don't feel that's okay, then I encourage you to give them permission to feel that way, and give yourself permission to feel the way you feel. Why is that important? Because it takes away the resistance that blocks things from actually happening. If we live in a surrendered state and an unconditional environment, and our love towards somebody, or if we live in a flow state, we live in a non-resistant state, then things can actually take place that need to take place. For example, there's no greater love than a mom has for her children, and men may argue with that, but a mom is very, very close. She's the one that bore those babies. She is the one that's very close. Okay, leave the argument for another time, whether a man is or a woman is. The point is that when a mom's love reaches out to a child and anchors in and does not want to allow that child to have their own journey when they come of age, then it's going to drive her nuts. And then she's going to create more resistance by holding on and clinging on energetically and spiritually and vibrationally to that child. And then the hands of God are tied, so to speak, from reaching in and helping to change and heal and set free that situation. Okay. So just remember that just because you are a man that has made mistakes, or maybe you haven't made mistakes, maybe you've done a lot of right things and a lot of good things, and you're just, for the life of you, you can't understand what in the world is going on. What is happening with this situation? What is happening with my child? What is happening with my kids? What is happening with my ex? I just don't get it. Well, here's something that I think will help you, is that if you just spend time alone as much as possible in the morning. I always like to say in the morning or at night if you're a night person. mornings are great because they start your day off right. You take the morning and you just say, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to sit in silence and I'm going to soak and I'm going to meditate and I'm just going to let things be the way they are and I'm going to be okay with it and just surrender and release as best as you can. And you watch yourself drop from your head space where all the confusion is, all the frustration is, down to your heart centered space where love is actually healing you and sending the frequency of love out to heal the situation and the children because you're always connected in one. There's no distance in the spirit, guys. There's none. So just remember that we're connected whether we realize that or are awake to that or not. We're all connected as one because we're a part of the one, the big one, the God, the Godhead. And so if you just sit with yourself and just say it's okay to feel this way and you say, okay, I am going to allow this to drop into the heart space and just feel your love for your children, feel your love for yourself, forgive yourself, and then allow the love to well up and swell up inside of you, and then watch what comes up. You could have some real pain come up, you could have some real joy come up. When they come up simultaneously or when they come up separately, watch the pain, send love to it, and watch it dissipate. Okay, whatever that pain is, anger, frustration, confusion, hurt, disqualification, whatever it may be, allow it to come up, send love to it, and watch it dissolve. And then focus on the good things, focus on the laughter and the joy that you've had with your children in the past, or maybe you haven't even seen them. Maybe you haven't been allowed to see them, or for whatever reason, you just haven't had the courage to see them. There's no condemnation here. There's no judgment. And when you don't judge yourself or the situation or the children or the circumstance, when you don't judge it, you've just released the chains to allow love to go in and heal the whole entire situation. Now, it may take a while, may take years, may take a lifetime, may not happen in this lifetime, but you're allowing love to go in and take care of it. No matter what they're saying to you, no matter what you're feeling, no matter what the ex has said, no matter what your children feel about you, maybe they hate your guts. Maybe they can't stand you. Maybe they think you're a flippin' loser, but you're not. You're not. I'll be the first to say just because you've done something wrong, you've made a mistake, I made many mistakes, maybe you've horrifically done something. If you've forgiven yourself and you've forgiven them or you've forgiven the situation and you've asked for forgiveness, it's time to allow it to dissolve by sitting with yourself and saying it's okay. It's okay to feel this way. Now, it's not okay that what you've done to hurt them or damage their lives, but what is okay is if you've gone in and you've tried to remedy the situation, and maybe there's just silence and there's nothing in return, right? This is where you have to be okay with it. Be okay with yourself, be okay with the situation, and then forgive yourself, don't judge yourself, don't judge the situation or the people. And when you do that, healing begins to come and expand out and begins to work on their hearts and reconciliation and in your heart. And whatever happens, let it happen. Detach from the outcome. And you'll realize and you'll see that, wait a minute, these are situations, circumstances I did in my ego, and the ego is now healing by the inner work that I'm doing so that it can take a back seat to the real me, which is the greater part of me, my spirit. When the spirit steps forward, then things begin to shift and orchestrate in your favor. Again, it may take a while, but as long as you've been, you're still reaching out, maybe you can't, but you're still posturing it in your heart that you love them, that you care for them, and that you want to really reconcile in the future. We have to not listen to the ego and to the darkness that says that we are disqualified for life. We're disqualified. We're losers. We can't make it in life. We can never be a good dad, never be a father. All of those lies, they're all lies. They're all illusionary lies to the ego because the truth of the matter is that you are a different man now. You are a different person. They may not even know who you are. Your children may not know who you are now, this version of yourself. Your ex may certainly not. And I know in my own life, I have to really look at this truthfully. My ex does not know this version of me at all. I've completely changed from what I was when I was with her years ago, decades ago. And the same with my son. My son really doesn't know who I am. And I really don't know the depths of who he is. I mean, I know in general because of the time I've spent with him, and so does he. But to really, really know each other, you've got to be around each other, right? And so I'm waiting for that to come about to where it's a mutual, heartfelt thing to where we can come to the table and just have the conversation so that we can both ultimately heal at the core. If there's any kind of resentment, any level of bitterness or resentment, you're not healed. It's not reconciled. And so, but that's okay. You have to say that's okay for now. And so when that time happens, the appointed time, God knows how to orchestrate it. Until that happens, don't believe the lies that you're a flippin' loser. You're not. You're flippin' amazing. That's who you are as a man. You're amazing. I don't care how many mistakes you've made. I don't care how many roads you went down that are very dark. If you've made the if you've resolved it in your heart to be a better person, you're already halfway there. You're already mostly there. It's now just shifting the behaviors and the habits and the addictions and getting healing in those areas and then moving forward from there. But just you being alive and having breath um, means that you're not a loser. Um, Nobody, in my opinion, nobody in my experience that is an image made after the image of love, made after the image of God, is a loser. Now, their actions may be losatory. Actions may be not so good. Actions may be flat out evil. However, like I said, if you're making changes and making movements towards that which is good, there's no condemnation. There's none. There's zero. And if God is for you, who can be against you? My son even has that tattooed on his back. If God is for me, who can be against me? Well, there it is. It says it right there. If God is for you, who can be against you? And I'm saying that's to you, the man watching. If God is for you, who can be against you? If love, God is for you, what situation or circumstance or person can be against you? It can't. It can't withhold its weight or its strength, in other words, against the power of unconditional love. Now, you're going to make mistakes. All of us are the rest of our days, but it's what we learn from them. It's how we respond to them is what matters. And so I just want to encourage you on this Father's Day that, man, take to heart everything that was said because here's a man that's not perfect. Here's a man that you're listening to that has made some mistakes, but is wanting to make things right, to reconcile. But for whatever reason, it just can't happen on my time frame in the way that I want it. Now, this may be a completely different viewpoint on my son's side, as he could sit there and say, "Well, why don't you just move to my city and be around me? Why don't you just make all the efforts to come here on my terms?" And I've tried to explain, but it didn't work, which I understand, is that it can't be just on one-sided terms. It can't be on my terms, it can't be on his terms alone. It has to be a mutual thing to where we can come to common ground and say, hold on a minute. By me moving to town, will it make any difference? Or will you still reject even wanting to have a relationship? That's very valid. It's a very valid reason. It's a very valid question. Will you want to even try? Or is it just to kind of make me pay kind of thing for all of the pain? Which is understandable. I get it. But um, yeah, it has to be a mutual situation. And so maybe some of you are facing that, and you're just like, man, I'll just pick up everything, give up my life, and everything and every situation, my job, my work, my business, and everything, and just go there to be with them. That may seem well, it may seem like a really good idea, but it could have disastrous results if it's out of timing. It really could, you guys. And some of you may not like hearing that, but it's 100% true. It really is. And in the mind of your kids, they may be saying, "Well, why wouldn't you chase me down?" Well, it has to be mutual. It has to be a mutual situation. It has to be a mutual agreement. And then that child or those children wanting you to actually be involved in their life, not and for the right reasons, not just to make you pay, not just to because I'm hurt and I'm wounded and you're gonna prove to me that kind of demeanor does not work. And so it has to be when the child or the children awaken to the point to where like, hey, you know what? Let's just come to the table. I really want to have a relationship with you. I really want to work through some things and let's just hash it out. Let's talk it out. If my son were to do that, no problem. No problem. I'd be there. I'd be there. But that hasn't come from a heartfelt place right out of his mouth. It hasn't come from a posture of saying, hey, dad or John, call me John. That's fine. If you didn't feel like I was a dad, then I understand. Then just say, hey, let's come to the table. Let's come to the table and really talk about it. I'm ready for it. It's time. I'm ready. And then hearing that in each other's voices, right, means all the difference. Because if you have any little bit of discernment, you'll discern like, hey, he's ready. You're ready or not. The dad, the son, the dad, the daughter, the dad, the children, whatever it may be, you're ready. So it's timing, timing, timing. But just open your heart and have a heart of reconciliation, and it will happen. It will happen. Again, maybe not in your lifetime, but it will happen. So, just some encouragement for you today as a dad, as a father, that you are not disqualified in God's eyes. You are not a loser in God's eyes. And so, if God is in you, God is for you. Who can be against you? So just believe that. Start to love yourself, and then you'll begin to love your children as yourself. That's loving your neighbor as yourself. Once you see yourself in a better light, you start loving yourself in the way that God sees you. And we're not talking about religion, guys. Has nothing to do with religion. I know that's been brought up with my son before. It's just like, well, you're not a man of God, that kind of thing. I'm not even talking about that. I've made plenty of mistakes. I've even been claimed to be some high spiritual kind of person. But it's just what comes out when you're in pain. So just remember that if love is for you, you've got it. You've got this. You can do this. You can make it. But I just some encouragement for you because I can just sense that there's a lot of men hurting and it's not a happy Father's Day for them. Every time they think about it, they're just like, "Oh my gosh, I wish this day would be over with," or "I haven't heard from my children." And so, you know, it's just kind of a sore spot for you. But just make it a celebratory thing between you and God because hey, God's the greatest father there ever was and ever will be. So he looks at you as an awesome person, as an awesome son. And so why not look at yourself that way? Just again, by sitting with yourself and saying it's okay to feel this way, having a welcoming party for whatever comes up, send love to the negative stuff and certainly embrace the good, joyful stuff, and you'll begin to heal like you've never known before. All right. Well, until next time, it is a qualified good Father's Day. It is you are qualified. So let's call it I am qualified Father's Day. All right. Until the next one, keep it 18 inches down the heart centered way, and we'll see you on the next video.